What's up, my friends? Jalen Alea checking in from planet Wosa. So today I really wanted to focus this alchemical conversation about the process of creation. Channel and focus this session into the conversation of the Avatar. And the Avatar is essentially the character that is being crafted. And the foundation of my work, I don't know what the foundation is, but we could say it for right now. The foundation of the work is creating a universe. And I've been working with this mythology for a few years, a lot in writing, a lot just in visions and interweaving different scenes of dreams to really construct this universe. And this universe is very much kind of an elaborate experience of discovery. Similar to Sandman meets Dune meets the Foundation trilogy meets Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and whatnot. And the foundational idea behind this universe, or the goal, is to that instead of there's all of these different characters interweaving, and there's all of these different dimensions interweaving. There's and within the different dimensions, there's essentially these octaves of the same character moving through. So for right now, we'll say the main character of the entire universe that we're tapping into is Jalen. And Jalen is essentially discovering these different universes, more passively receiving them than actively creating them. The universes come into focus when he enters a drawing state, for example, and he's not trying to draw anything, but he just starts making lines, and then the lines assemble themselves, and he begins to see it when he lets go and just allows himself to be what he feels is a vessel for something to pour through. And this something pouring through feels very large and complex and intelligent. And he is continually in a process of learning how to interact with the intelligence, how to be a primed and open vessel for it to pour through, how to get out of his own way, which typically means how to let go of what he thinks it is so that he can discover what it really is, to let go of all notions of how he thinks he should be, either based upon stories that he's told himself or stories that the world has articulated for him. These birds are really calling. And really essentially develop his own culture within himself, develop and dive deeply into his own conversation. That's a very authentic stream, and in addition to developing, or it's deeper than just a conversation. What it is, it's developing faith in a process, letting go of the idea of, are the realms that he is speaking to, the dimensions that he's discovering, are they real, or are they just imaginary, are they just made up in his head? He has made the decision to go about and engage life as a method actor who is fully convinced beyond the need to be convinced. He is fully aware and knowing that all the realms that he's engaging are real, and his quest is not about creating them for any kind of proof, but rather creating them as a means with which to interact deeper with them. He sees these realms and the beings of these realms as friends, and friends that are just as real as any friends that he meets in the human form. So Jalen is a human. He's a human being who goes about this process of discovery and a continual process of rearranging his psyche based upon what he is discovering. He is an explorer. He is a warrior. He is a a leader, he is a king, he is a slave. He sees the entirety of the mythology as a reflection of his psyche, as his subconscious illuminating itself so that it may be engaged. He comes to know, discover, and learn that this mythology is a way with which to interact with the ocean of subconscious, the compositional prism, which is creating our reflexive interaction with the world around us. And in deepening his relationship to this mythology, he deepens his relationship with life. He learns to compose the mythology in a way which is being created through life. And this is something that he shifts into when he first goes about discovering this mythological landscape, also known as Creaturae. When he first goes about discovering Creaturae, he is it's something that he feels he is continually leaving himself to go explore. Or he's leaving earthliness, he's leaving life, he's leaving the relationships that Jalen has as a human being to go explore this other place, this kingdom of epic. And he essentially, every time he walks inside, he found a seam within his psyche which allows him to open the doors and step out of his being, step out of his body and enter this world, this magnificent ocean of imagination with all of these like very profound and hyper detailed realities and realms and beings and ecosystems, all abiding by their own laws of physics and reality. And when he first discovers these planes and these places, he does so in a way which he disconnects with his humanness to go and discover and explore. And slowly he enters the process of engaging, shifting his relationship to these realms to be a relationship that animates and catalyzes experience within the human. And he does this because he recognizes that all of these realms have a version of him. And the key to the quest within each and every realm are to connect the different versions of him within different planes, within different realities, within different realms that have different laws, to connect the awareness and create a stream of conversation between himself from these different places. So this essentially takes the form of Jalen begins writing a story. And this story for him is metaphorical. Jalen begins writing a story. And within the story, his character is Aeon. Within this story that Jalen is composing, Aeon has his own life that's centered in another realm which is Digitalis, which is essentially a virtual reality in which people don't come out of their virtual reality. It is a system, it is a very clear matrix. And through an interaction with a glitch in the system, a glitch in the matrix, Aeon becomes aware of Jalen writing him, and they begin conversing, they begin speaking, they begin passing messages and learning how to essentially share information between spaces and between sources. And Jalen's story in writing Aeon becomes part of the story. And Aeon begins sharing his story about writing Jalen. And what happens is essentially it's like, first, Jalen is writing the story of Aeon from a narrator's perspective. And then after the glitch portal, the narrator's perspective becomes his own experience of writing the story of Aeon. And so Jalen is articulating the journey of his life. Jalen and Aeon. So Aeon is, as Jalen writes Aeon, he creates metaphors. He sees himself, as so many artists do, he sees himself within Aeon. And in Aeon's universe, a lot of the same frustrations, difficulties, and challenges that Jalen faces, Aeon does as well. But he faces them in a different way. And Aeon's journey and quest is also Jalen's quest and journey. And what makes it really powerful is by seeing himself so deeply in this character, he sees the struggles in life, and he also writes the methodology for which Aeon overcomes these struggles. And the overcoming, the writing, the articulation of the process of the overcoming, and this new domain, this new paradigm in which the first realm of challenges have been overcome. They enter a new reality together, a reality in which their conversation is synchronized. In which they are composing these strings of reality. And Jalen is heavily inspired by this idea of a hypersigil within chaos magic. A sigil is essentially a way of interacting with the subconscious terrain. It's a form of magic with a K, which allows one to create intention, pour an elevated state of emotion, awareness, consciousness, and sentience into this intention, and then burn it, cast it away, ignite it into the ocean of subconscious, and allow the universe to arrange itself so that intention may be manifested. And so Jalen writes Aeon as a hypersigil, and Aeon speaks to Jalen as his hypersigil. And together they are creating a mutual space in which a dialogue is ensuing between the two. Within this mutual space, they have a few foundational keys. And this space is essentially a space to interact and to compose reality, to compose the fucking universe. Whoa. Hang on.